Hello and welcome to this video, and welcome to my guest today, Anne-Louise Harbutt, who is going to be here on this Pathways to Abundance video series. And thank you for joining me, Anne-Louise. Can you just, as we start, just explain a little bit about what you do so that people watching know who I've got here with me today?
Oh, thank you so much. I'm really excited for this conversation. So my name is Anne-Louise and I am an intuitive spiritual mentor, which means I help women to connect so deeply with their true self, not who they feel they should be, not what life says they should do, but with their true self, and also with their soul, so that they can feel more lit up and more alive than they have ever felt before, so they can live their best life, whatever that looks and feels like for them, because what's best life for me and best life for you and best life for other people is very different. And I do that from a very soulful place and what I call soul living, which is like living your best life, but led by your soul.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And we met back in May 2018 when I attended your Intuitive Leaders Meetup retreat, day retreat. Oh my goodness, it was absolutely amazing. And it all felt to me like the universe had completely guided us there on that day. You've been in my life ever since, and I'm so grateful for that. So, yeah. And I would like to also just mention, sounds a little bit strange, but I had already seen us in this conversation today. So I would just like to explain what happened to anyone watching. So on Saturday night, I dreamed, so this is right before the new moon in Gemini, I dreamed that me and my daughter were playing around this big old oak tree. And it was very beautiful, and it had white summer flowers all around this oak tree. And I started to think, someone lives inside this oak tree. And I got this urge in my dream to call them out. So I started knocking on the door. Maybe it was a door. So knocking on the oak tree. And I found myself saying, William, William, wherefore art thou, William? And I realized I was asking for Shakespeare to come out of this big old oak tree. And with that, I put so much effort and energy into it that I woke myself up. And I went into this kind of lucid dream where it was me and you having this chat today. And the words that I said to you were, oh, William Shakespeare wants me to tell you that all the world's a stage, which is one of his lines, and we're here on Earth, which is the globe, the set. And basically what I do is I read your soul's original intentions for what the script was that you already set before you came into this life, before other people kept handing you parts. And I was like, oh, that's really good. I'm going to actually have to say it now.
Yeah, that's so powerful, because we do have intentions, a script, if you like, that our soul came into this lifetime, and we do get chapters and experiences thrown at us that can feel like they knock us off path. I personally feel that it's all a learning. Like you can't get it wrong in some ways. Doesn't mean that it's not uncomfortable. Doesn't mean that it's not difficult or emotional or vulnerable or scary, or all of the 3D emotions that we feel.
Yeah.
But we are learning a lesson, and we are going through that experience for a reason. And sometimes we just need to connect back in with that version of ourselves, with that soul knowing that we have, because it does get buried, because life is extraordinary and challenging and all of the emotions.
That's it. And it's almost like that enmeshing, isn't it? It's like, here's the soul self wanting to come down, and here's the human self kind of wanting to come up. And it's like, where do we find that balance? And how can we live as the human being that we really are, as well as being the soul? So there are quite a lot of parallels between what you do in helping, is it predominantly women, to live a soul-led life, and where I come in, which is giving clarity and language to the soul's original intentions as seen in the birth charts. And with your permission, can I share your birth chart on screen for people to see? Thank you. Here we go. So this is your birth chart here, Anne-Louise, and because I wanted to call this series Pathways to Abundance, I would just love to ask you, what makes you feel abundant?
Abundance for me is, it's more of like a feeling that I have. I used to believe, and I've done a lot of work around wealth and money, and used to think that abundance was something that you felt when you had certain things or you had achieved a certain level of success. And actually what I've come to know and to learn is that abundance is a feeling for me. It's that feeling of the soul living. It is that feeling that I am living my best life and I am living my most expansive version of my truest self. So that might be that I'm spending time with my teenage. So I've got two teenagers who are very much flying the nest and living their own life. So if the four of us actually get to sit around the table and have a meal together, which is very, very rare these days, at the same time, eating the same meal, then that's abundance, because it's so rare now for us to do that. That's like, it's a special moment. It doesn't take very long because they eat very quickly and they're off doing their own thing. But for that window, that's abundance. Abundance might be like, so I have, this sounds a really simple example, but if I'm making a cup of tea, I've got some tea bags that I use every day, and then I've got tea bags which are a little bit special. It's abundance is having that special cup of tea that tastes a little bit better. Abundance can be a client messaging me on Voxer and saying, oh, this is soul living, isn't it? This is what it is. I realize now, I found it. I'm living it. That's abundance. You know, it's those things that make me go, this is really special. This is like a moment in time that I'm just going to be very present with. And that's, for me, that is abundance, and having life full of those.
Yeah.
I
remember you always talking about those things, you know, like having a list of all those things that make you feel amazing. And it might be your special cup of tea, but have that list anyway and do those things relentlessly, bringing joy and abundance into your life. It's beautiful.
We don't do it. We get, and I do, like, I'm aware of these things and I'm saying these things, but I also have days when I don't feel abundant, and days when it feels hard work, and days when I think this is so frustrating. And I have to remind myself as well to bring moments of abundance, to what do I need to shift my energy? What do I need to shake it out? What do I need to do in this moment to just bring myself back to a moment of abundance? And that's, sometimes we do need that list, and we do need reminding, because life is busy and crazy and chaotic and messy, and you know, we're on the go usually the minute we wake up.
Absolutely.
So we need sometimes just a little, like, what's abundance? What are you going to do today? Like setting an intention at the beginning of a day. That's a really good thing to do. Is something that you're going to do that makes you feel abundant.
And it feels to me that when you are talking about it, you get excited about it, you live and breathe it. This is what you do, and you are so passionate about helping other people. And when I look at your chart, my eyes are immediately drawn to the first house, because in astrology, the first house is all about how we show up. So it's how other people see us, but on a much deeper level, it's everything to do with how we use our day, how we use our bodily energy, how we self-actualize, and who we see ourselves as. So it's very much about positioning as well. Now, one of the planets that I look at to indicate abundance is Jupiter, because Jupiter is the biggest planet. It's full of gas, so it's like literally expansive. And it adds growth and abundance and opportunity to everything it touches. And what's really remarkable in your chart is that Jupiter and Neptune are very close together. So there's only 1 degree apart. That means it's a conjunct aspect. So they're together. Now, Neptune, so basically, Jupiter is adding that supersizedness to your Neptune. And Neptune is where we feel that higher octave of love and abundance, of Venus. So Neptune is where we connect in with the collective, connect in with just love of everything. And it helps us to feel that spiritual higher plane of love. So the fact that you've got Jupiter expanding your higher plane of love and spirituality and supersized intuition right there in the first house of who you are says to me, oh my goodness, this person has a spiritual career and literally is here to talk about what lights people up and what makes them feel abundant. And, you know, there's a connection with the part that you're here to play for yourself and in the work that you do for others. And also to have your Mars there as well. So Mars is the planet of energy and action. You're bringing that into the first house, which is also characterized by Sagittarius. And Sagittarius, well, that's the adventurer, the truth seeker, the truth speaker, the person who's here to talk about spirituality. So having all of that bundled up together in your first house, I think is a very beautiful embodiment of how you come across.
I love that. I was just, as you were saying, I was just thinking embodiment was the word that was coming in, because one of my a big thing for me being in this space, in this mentoring coaching space, is to embody what I teach and to embody it and practice it before sharing it in the world. So embodiment was just that. And it is what I love is that the work that you do is it just gives you that clarity. It just gives you that sense of, I'm feeling this on a soul level. This is what I'm here to do. Like, I know I'm here to share this. And on times when it feels really, sometimes really challenging, is that actually it's written in, you know, in my birth chart. It's written there what I'm here to do. And I absolutely do want everybody, I mean, I do work mainly with women, but I do work with men as well, is that they can feel the best that they can possibly feel. One of my lines that I say is that when a woman is her true self, magic happens. Because I genuinely believe when you are your true self, when you start living your life your way, like bringing the soul into that, then magic does happen, because you're no longer trying to fit into something that isn't you. You're no longer trying to be someone that you feel you should be, or have a career or a business that you've been told you need to do or you should do to honor someone else's desire. And you start like you start going, do you know what, in my heart, in my soul, this is what I feel. The magic, that's when the magic does happen. Everything changes when you start doing that.
Absolutely. And I'd like to also just remind you and bring in the fact that your natal moon is very, very close to your ascendant here. Now, with your ascendant, your rising sign being like the sunrise, you know, if you think about the moment that it's black, and then there's the sunrise, it happens quite quickly, doesn't it? And that sort of personal sunrise is how you show up in the world. And your moon, so those unconscious, habitual, deeply intuitive, feminine emotions are right there on who you are. So what that means is that people will see you as embodying the truth of your emotions. And I think that comes across every time you speak. You mean it. You really mean what you say from the heart. And with the moon, that's the, you know, it's the feminine principle, it's the yin. And that kind of sometimes lives in the shadows for people. You know, we'd like to sort of keep our emotional side a little bit more hidden. For you, that's not really an option because it's right there, so close to your ascendant. So it is actually who we see. And that may not be the same for everyone. And there's no obligation for other people to show up in an Anne-Louise way. That's for you. That's for you to do.
Yeah, and I do like I do wear my heart on my sleeve. And I think it's really important, especially when you're doing this kind of work, especially when you're connecting with that truest version of you, because I've embodied it. I've worked with several coaches, but when I first did this work, invested in myself, I had some really vulnerable, raw realizations about who I was and how little I knew, and the disconnect between the person that the outside world saw and who I really was inside. And I wasn't necessarily conscious of that. And I know that the work that's involved and the emotion that's involved and the hokey cokey of it, what's involved, and you think you've got somewhere and then you don't feel you have. And I would say it's like a helter-skelter that goes up. You feel like you're just going around in circles. You actually are moving up another level, but it feels like this constant spiral of I'm not actually getting anywhere. And I know all of that, and because when I share about it, and because when I share a lot of truth about my own experiences and my own work, and it's not about showing up every day with floods of tears or emotion, it's just about saying, you know, this was really tough. This is really tough, and I'm working it out as I go, and I'm discovering more. And then also sharing, this is what I've discovered. So recently I had a really clear download about the power of your spiritual soul frequency and how you can use this energy to consciously create a life that you love. And there's 5 different types, and they were downloaded, and I used my spiritual soul frequency to create. I created a wealth. I created I was offering a retreat, and I created clients to come into that. I've created experiences for my family, and I've held this soulful frequency. But I wanted to share that it doesn't mean you just stand there and unicorns and rainbows appear all the time. That's not what this is about. Yes, you can be really powerful. Yes, you can consciously create. Yes, you can bring things into your life, but you're still going to feel those 3D emotions. You're still going to have those challenging times. You're still going to feel the up level of that we've talked about before, the uncomfortableness of when you're growing and the up level. You're still going to feel all of that. It doesn't negate that.
No, it doesn't. And I think that's something that I've always really felt, and in you, felt embodied in you. And that's why you've stayed in my world for so long, even though my trajectory has been quite fast and changed a lot, but the fact that you saw me on a soul level 5 years ago, or however long it is, it feels like that's why we can still exist in the same place. But also the fact that you bring the grounding, and that brings always, when we're talking about grounding and how practical we are, and whether we're actually grounding something in the real world, creating something to go out with, I always look for Saturn. Now, your Saturn is over here in Taurus, earth sign, practical, actually wants to create something in the real world and physically create some material meaning and abundance from that. And with Saturn, often we can feel like we're on that helter-skelter, and this is the same for all of us. We've all got Saturn somewhere, and yours is in the 6th house of daily routines and work. So it's literally, this is what you're bringing to your work, that notion of going around the helter-skelter when we go, oh God, I've been here before, not this again. But we are always seeing that higher perspective, aren't we? And we are learning as we go through those spirals in life and learning to ground something. And that's where yours is really interesting, because it's actually linked up there in a trine. Now, a trine is a really positive, harmonious, flowing aspect. And this goes to your Venus, planet of magnetic attraction, which is sitting there in your 2nd house of material abundance, personal income, but also on a deeper level, core values. Now, I would absolutely say for you, and it is true, I think, for everyone, however, more so for you, because your translation is very literal here, that when we really, really know our core values and can express them, that acts like a magnetic attraction for everything else. And it's that core deep level of knowing exactly what our talent is, how to express it, how to position it, going out and embodying it, living it, being it, speaking it, modeling it, then the attraction comes, because it can't not, because it's literally frequency, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I talk a lot about core values because that's part of being your true self. Often we have values that we have brought with us from our upbringing, and we have this blueprint of this is, and actually when we look at the true self, when I work with clients, and you're right, I do see them on a soul level, and that's something I experienced recently with a lady, and she said, she was crying, and she said, I feel like I've been seen. Really, my true self has been seen for the first time, and it's a very special gift to have. Like, I'm always very humbled by the fact that I'm able to see people in that way, because it opens up something that brings about this soul living life. But when you are talking about your true self, the core values are so important, because we really align with the values that are yours, rather than maybe some that have come. And you're right, it is magnetic, because you're then speaking your truth, because core values are more than just that sense of, oh, this is what I sort of believe in. Core values to me are those there's normally no more than 5, really, if that many, that you are such intrinsically part of you that you are either massively triggered, or you don't feel like yourself if they're not fulfilled in some way. Like, they really are key. I think when you talk about that magnitude, that sort of magnifying that abundance, is that sense of you're coming from such a grounded, truthful place.
Absolutely.
Values, and therefore that people resonate, they know they're seeing and feeling the real you. And I think in this online space, that's getting more and more important than ever.
Well, it is, and AI can't replicate our soul frequency.
No, that's very true. And I think, but you know, there's times when you watch somebody, or you listen to someone, and all their copy and their lives and the words they're saying, or, you know, you're really feeling excited, but there's something just not quite right, or not quite aligned, or just something just feels odd, and you can't necessarily decide what odd is, but it's because they're either not aligned to you, they're not the same frequency as you, or they're not aligned to themselves. They're not being in there from those true values, and you energetically you can see that, or you feel that rather than see that.
We feel it, don't we? We feel it's like every cell of our body can hear what is vibrating at actual truth. Do you remember? It's just reminded me actually is that when you came for a numerology reading, because we've done a little bit of both astrology and numerology, haven't we? And I remember that you were one of the people who it was really powerful to kind of look at the difference between your personality number and then your soul urge number. It was like, oh, that me inside needs to blast through what other people's perceptions might be. I've got to communicate from that soul. It's like the soul's knocking to come out and going, who am I? Let me speak my truth from that place. And that's where what I find is during readings, these tiny little tweaks, just either to an energy or to a word, actually make an enormous difference. So I would never work with somebody who's not soul awakened. They literally wouldn't come for an astrology reading. They wouldn't be aligned with me. So I it's like almost an assumption that a person in front of me is really awakened to their soul. They know what their gifts are. Are they always saying it in the clearest language online? Not always, and that's a heck of a lot of societal work that has kind of squashed us down and made us not always own the precise wording about our true worth. And I see that as probably the most common thing that I can shift people from that thing that you think you're talking about and having a powerful impact. Actually, let's just tweak the wording now that we've seen your chart. Now you're shining, now that's gold. And that's how we really position that totally unique gold within each of us, isn't it? And go out there and shine it exactly how we were designed to shine.
because I remember being so frustrated before that reading. I remember thinking, you know, I'm saying the words, I'm embodying it, I'm showing up, I'm doing all these things, I feel like I'm shining, but it wasn't connecting. It wasn't connecting in the same way. And part of that was some work I had to do on myself. But part of it is the language piece of you know, you are saying the words, but it's not. It's that soul, that side of you, which is, this is how people are seeing you, but actually that's, and I was like, I think I'm said to you, I can't believe that's how people are seeing me, because it's not, that's not what I'm feeling, and it's obviously what you're projecting. And the other thing I remember is feeling this frustration, and you turn around to me, and I remember it so clearly, and you said, the thing is, Anne-Louise, you've been teaching this for lifetimes. So like lifetime upon lifetime upon lifetime. So to you, it's like you know it back to front, inside out, every way possible. And it's like ABC to you. And my talking about that, tweaking the words that you help your clients with, is how do I communicate it? Because it's so simple to me, because I've been teaching it for so long, and actually get that across in a way that people can go, oh my God, she is talking to me. She's talking to my soul, because that's that sort of, I think I was being very much, well, why are you not seeing this? Because it's so obvious.
And it's that unconscious competence as well. When you really, really know something, you forget how you got to that place of knowing. And especially when we're recalling gifts from multiple lifetimes within this one lifetime, and we're activated, remembering, reenacting. It's like, where did you learn that? Well,
exactly.
Wow, that's amazing. I'll just show you chart one more time. What I did want to just point out as well is that quite often people will come to me for a reading when there's something going on in life. You know, you get to that transition point and you just know, I'm at a crossroads. People do that all the time. And it's like, I think my business is going quite well, but actually there's like these other things going on. And, you know, what I love about astrology is, and about working with people in this way, the whole life happens together. You don't get to park your children whilst you do your business, or like not work on yourself. You can't compartmentalize. Everything's happening all at once, isn't it? And what's so beautiful is, you know, I quite often look at transits. So these green planets on the outside, it's basically like, this is what's going on at the moment in your chart. So when people arrive for a reading, I'm kind of like, right, okay, so I'm noticing that Uranus has been going, as it's been going through Taurus for quite a while now. I'm like, and that is in your 6th house. So don't be surprised if you have revolution, evolution, change, disruptions in your working life and daily routines, because things will be different. And you've just told me that your daughter's flown off. She's just flown back and she's flown off again. And guess what? That's in your 6th house of people you live with, and Uranus rules air travel. I mean, it's always so literal. And I just mentioned that because quite often people can kind of go, I'm having these intuitive hunches, or something's going on in life. And there's so much confirmation and reassurance that people go, right, yeah, it can literally be seen. This is all normal. That's fine. And it helps people just kind of get over whatever's going on, understand that it's all happening all at once, and understand what's happening to them, in their life.
Absolutely. And I think because it can feel so chaotic sometimes, and it can feel like everything happens at once. And when you have a reading with you, there is this sense of, like, just as you said, oh, that's because your whole shoulder just went, oh, that's why it's like, you can just kind of go, okay, that makes sense. You're not going crazy. You're not losing the plot a little bit. You're not kind of suddenly not, you were doing really well, because it's often a feeling when we're riding high and it feels really great, and then it's like we hit this wall, this invisible wall, and it's like, what happened? I'm lying on the floor, the rug's been pulled from under my feet. Where did that happen? But actually, when you have a reading, you can go, okay, so this is all happening, and you know it's going to change because it's transition, you know, it's all transitional, and there is this sense of confirmation that it's not you, it is you, but it's not probably, it's kind of, it's in your chart, and it is this, whether it's feeling crazy or chaotic or frustrated, and there is the sense of, yeah, well, that's of course it's happening, and it is a bit of clarity, and it is a bit of just reassurance, and it is that sense of, okay, so I can, for me, it's like that sense, it's move, I can move through this. It's like, I know I'm going to come out the other side of this. I'm going to have learnt more, and I'm going to be more embodied more, or whatever it is.
Exactly. And there's all, yeah, definitely. And there's all those different types of transformation, such as Uranus causes that sudden shock and disruption and lightning bolts of awareness and things that you can't unsee. And then Pluto's like on a really deep transformational level, really calling you into the depths. So, and then Saturn's like, have you learnt your lesson in the real world? So there's all these different energies. And sometimes people will come to me and say, I literally feel like I'm feeling everything all at once. And I'll look at their chart and go, oh my God, you've got so much going on. It's not, it's not, you're not making it up. This is a crazy transit that you've never had before. Or maybe this came around 7 years ago and they're like, thank God, yeah, that makes sense. I'm not going mad. So yeah.
It is that kind of, like you say, you just go, oh yes, it makes sense. Like it's like it's not a permission piece as such, but it's sort of that, just like, you know, of course you're feeling that, you're being seen. I guess you see people, don't you, because you have the chart as well. So I think people feel like they're really seen and heard because you say, of course you're feeling this, because this and this and this is happening. And it's like, oh, someone's just realized that, you know, I'm not completely crazy, and there is a reason that feeling all these emotions, or I'm feeling this about my business. Like I think quite a few people were going through I just want to give it all up, like more than just it's a bit tough, but actually I don't feel like I should be doing this anymore, like a really big transition and change. And that can feel, you can then start questioning whether what you're doing is right, or are you still good enough, can you still do this, questioning yourself. And it would be easy, I think, just to close the doors in that moment. But if you have a reading and they say, actually, this is exactly what's in your chart, hang on in there, you are meant to still teach this, or you are meant to pivot, or you are meant to do something, but you've just got to give it a week to a month, whatever it is.
Oh, absolutely.
You can see the end, if you like, you can see the difference that's going to make, rather than, oh, this is it and forever and it's never going to feel the same.
Definitely. And we can feel like that, can't we? We can feel like, is my entire business dying? Is my entire purpose and all I've built up dying? I've had that so many times during readings this year, with people saying exactly what you've just said. I'm feeling like I should go back and get a job. Literally, people say that. And I'm like, hang on a minute, because I know this is like a universal year 7. I'm like, there's so much pivot going on. It's like the universe has picked up these giant jigsaw pieces, rearranging them. Like, hang on, let's have a look at your chart. Actually, now it's time that you need to be working with groups, or now it's time you need to be working with these people one-to-one. And the imagery and the messages, thank goodness, will just come through. And it's such a relief where people go, oh, actually, yeah, that is what I want to do. Or it might be, you need to pack up your bags and go on a pilgrimage. And they're like, oh, I keep thinking about that. Yeah, I do actually.
Because most of the time, the things you say, they've already, as you say, they already go, oh, that's really funny, because I've had dreams about that, or I've got this intuitive feeling that's what I should be doing. Yeah. And I think it's just, well, of course you have, because it's that confirmation. And it's like when I do when I see something like on that soul level, all right, and I'm also able to see the future self, which is kind of one and the same, but it's that future vision. Yeah. And you say exactly, you say, your future self is, the word I love is like a soul yearns, or your future self yearns, because it's not just a want, it's a yearn. The desire is really deep, like a soul desire. And you have this sense, and I was like, I can see this, and they're like, oh, do you know, that's something that I've really been thinking about but never been brave enough to do. And it's like that permission piece. It is like your soul knows, or the chart set, it's that something that they need to go, okay, that's given me the permission to be brave and to go and
Because you know it, don't you? I love what you just said. That's the soul yearns. That's it. The soul yearns. And the thing it yearns for, when you hear the truth, you go, that's it.
You
know it.
You know it's truth. I've seen it time and time again. I remember on one of my retreats, there was a lady there, and she came in, she was tired, life had been challenging, and she looked, you know, tired with life, you know, that sort of tired with life. And she was doing all the things in her business, and she had family and everything. And she was kind of looking for this thing that would make it all make sense. And we were talking about soul's purpose. And I had a massive download for her. And I said, this is your soul's purpose. And she was crying and I was crying. She said, I know it's true. I know, and I don't know how I know it, but every cell of my body knows that this is my soul's purpose. And she'd actually been living it for 16 years.
Oh, wow.
But she hadn't seen what was right in front of her, like is often the way when life is busy and you're looking for something outside of yourself. And it actually wasn't what she was expecting. But when she knew, it was like, of course, this is it. And then she could go, and that's why I've done that business that way. And that's why I want to write this book. And everything just suddenly made sense.
Wow.
But it didn't, but she had all these pieces and it was draining her because she was trying to fit them all together without this piece, this knowing, if you like. And it is that sense of course my soul, that's my soul's purpose. Of course my soul yearns for that. And then she knew, and then everything else just fell into place. And she, you know, had the face change, the face lit up, the eyes got softer. She was like this, that the grey sort of, it went to her face, started shining. It's really beautiful. It is really beautiful, because to be able to give someone that permission or clarity or certainty, like I know you do it as well, because you do it with your clients, and you know that they're going to go and do something different. You know they're going to go and put that offer out in the world, or send that email, or make that call, or leave a relationship, or whatever it is, because it's no longer serving them, and they feel a yearning of what is going to serve them. The ripple effect of not only like their life, their children's lives, their friends, like the ripple, their clients. Because they're going to go and put an offer out, which means they're going to end up changing someone's life, and that person's life is going to be changed, so they're going to go and help someone, and it just
and it's that seeing that action so quickly. I love it. You know, when you come off a reading and somebody within about half an hour is done the action, it's like, oh my god, they did it, they're using those words, we just did that. Oh, it's so good though, isn't it?
Powerful.
Well, I think we best wrap it up there, Anne-Louise, but I'm so grateful for you for having this chat for today, for coming on here, for sharing all of your soul's wisdom as you have done, and for allowing me to do a little bit of looking around your chart. If anybody who watches this video on YouTube doesn't know you but wants to connect, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, my website is AnneLouiseHarbutt.com. I'm on Facebook. You can find me. I have a Facebook group, which is Soul Connection. So you can come and join us in there. On Instagram, I'm Anne-Louise_Soul Living. So any of those places, you can DM me or come and find me, come and say hello.
Amazing. And we will put those links down below in the description as well. If you enjoyed watching this, please do like and subscribe. And, you know, approach us if you're interested in doing any of this powerful, amazing soul work. Once again, thank you for joining me today, Anne-Louise, and thank you to everyone who watched.